Hey everyone, and welcome into another week of the Daily Reflector's Fearless Football Forecast. Into the second week of the year, Ronnie. Looking ahead to 3 games this week. I'm Reflector prep sports writer Jordan Anders. This is Ronnie Woodward, and we're going to look ahead to kind of an abbreviated week, Ronnie. With
week.
half the teams in the county are on bye weeks. We've got a couple of games to chat about from last week, and then looking ahead to 2 home matchups and 1 county team on the road. So. We'll go ahead into one of the home games. I think you're going to lead off with that one, in the 2A ranks.
All right, we got South Lenore is at Aden-Grifton. I will be out in Littlefield on Friday. As we just looked up a few minutes ago, South Lenore is 1-5. Aden-Grifton starting to hit that stride a little bit. They're 3-3. Conference matchup correct with this?
Yes.
Yeah. So conference opener for both teams.
For Aden-Grifton.
Yeah. So Aden-Grifton always is strong in the league. It is a good league this year, with the shifted realignment of the conferences. So this is a good test. I say that, but the Chargers should be favored. Obviously, at home they should win. But you're kind of transitioning from non-conference play, and still feeling out personnel and that kind of stuff into the league, and kind of deciding where a lot of these league races and conference championships and whatnot. I think Aden-Grifton's in the thick of it. I don't know if they're the favorite in that league, but I think they're in the top half. So winning games like this obviously is important to kind of get started, with the conference record and kind of get started in the right direction. As far as my pick, it's pretty obvious where I'm heading in this one. Probably I'm gonna go with the Chargers at home. I think they're playing well. They're kind of, like I said, kind of hitting their stride, lately, and just interested to see what they're going to do, and who's going to run the ball. Somebody always emerges from Aden-Grifton, especially late in the year, once they kind of settle in,
right?
And set up for the conference season, the playoffs. So I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to heading out there at Littlefield, and I'm expecting to see Aden-Grifton win.
Yeah, agreed. And I think this is, they went into the bye week. They were off last week. Went into the bye week of riding back-to-back wins, and like you mentioned, kind of starting to pick up a little momentum, playing better on both sides of the ball. Defensively, they picked up and were able to kind of answer some of the mistakes that they made early in that game against North Pitt. Come up with a couple of big plays late to hold on and win that, and then offensively, running the ball with Rashadeen Bird and Michael Webb and Ray Darden. I think they're really starting to kind of hit their stride there. And so I'm with you. I think this is a fairly easy win for the Chargers. We transition from Littlefield to the other home game, which is South Central, and this one could be equally, if not more, lopsided, because this is South Central at home, coming off a huge win against Rose last week against a Southern Wayne team that hasn't won. I think the last time they won a football game was before I started working here, and that was over 2 years ago. So it's been a rough stretch for Southern Wayne in that league and just overall. And South Central, you factor that in with a South Central team that coming off of a huge win at Rose. We stood here last week and said that we thought they were going to win, but weren't sure if they were going to go in there and win handily like we thought. That was. I think neither one of us really thought that was going to turn into the blowout that it did, and a lot of credit for that goes to South Central on both sides of the ball. They bottled up Rose and did a great job offensively with Dexter McDuffie and Nazir Monroe-Smith of breaking off some big plays, but also, like I wrote about earlier in the week, kind of showing the ability to string some drives together, put some first downs together and kind of march down the field and show that they can be a little bit of a balanced offense. So I feel like I'm really just kind of killing time here over analyzing, because I feel like this is going to be a fairly easy win for the Falcons at home. They'll go to 2-0 in the league.
All right, I'll make up for it. I'll keep it short. Yeah, I think the Falcons win. I will say it's one of those matchups where, coming off the Rose big emotional win, if they were playing a different opponent, I'd say watch out,
right.
A little bit for a letdown. But, no offense to Southern Wayne, but just the talent, the matchup completely favors the Falcons. So I'll take South Central for sure at home. The next and final game here, and maybe after talking about 2 blowouts, this is the most intriguing game.
A little bit.
As weird as it sounds, J.H. Rose travels to CB Aycock. Both teams are 1-5. Both teams 0-1 in the league.
Both teams got blown out by league opponents last week.
Yeah, I mean, both teams reeling, however you want to say it, looking for a win. Obviously, one of them has to win unless it ends in a tie miraculously somehow. But, I mean, from the Greenville side of things, the Rampant side of things, things didn't go well against South Central, as you mentioned. We thought that was going to be a game where, hey, maybe they the emotion and just the pride, whatever, being at home, that factor in it, and they'd come out and play well.
And all the pressure being on South Central to win that game, and that wasn't what happened.
Didn't go that way. It's just defensively, it looks like the numbers, it's almost like it's crazy. We talked about Conley's defense so much early in the year and the numbers they're giving up. And Conley kind of figured it out and it's kind of turned the corner defensively, and Rose just continues to give up 40, 50 points in some of these matchups. So, again, this should be the most close game of the three that we'll have involving Pitt County teams. It's on the road, unfortunately, so we can't see it firsthand. But I think it's going to be a good game. And yeah, I think both teams, in a situation like this where both teams are struggling, probably comes down to turnovers, comes down to who makes the least mistakes, who doesn't throw a pick six or a weird, special teams weird play or anything like that. That's something to watch in this one, who gets those big plays and probably who just takes care of the ball and doesn't have some of those mistakes that have happened with both of these teams here recently happen again. I mean, that's something to watch for sure. With my prediction, I just feel like you have to take Rose. I mean, I don't, the league is set up here. There's been a pecking order for the last, since it started really, of New Bern, Rose, and Conley are kind of those main three teams. South Central is obviously having a great year, but I just can't imagine Rose loses to some of these teams, some of these Wayne County teams. I just think they have more players, they have more talent, more times than not.
Right.
As long as they can keep it mentally together, at some point that's going to come into play with this Rose team. I feel like if they can kind of stay in it, keep the emotions in check, and really want to go out and play well. But for another week, I'll take the Rampants and see what happens. But they're going to have to go play well to do it.
Right, and you mentioned a great point, and having seen their game against South Central, having been there to cover it Friday. They were up in the first half of that game. They drive down into South Central territory looking like they're going to punch it in and get another touchdown, and then they throw an interception that winds up getting returned back to about the 30, 35, and then South Central walks down and scores, and that was it. There was Rose never threatened again after that. So that, like you said, in a winnable game at Aycock, those are exactly the kinds of plays that they cannot afford to make and are going to have to stay away from. I'm with you, though. Like I said, I still... The Rampants, clearly with their struggles in the first half of the year, they've fallen a little bit down in that pecking order that you mentioned. But I still can't see them going on the road to my hometown in Pikeville and losing to Aycock. So
your your squad.
Yeah, my alma mater there. Yeah,
there you go. That's what I was looking for.
There you go. And so I think Rose still with all the struggles they've had, goes on the road and finds a way to get a win because they kind of have to at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah. So those are the three games for this week. We'll like as Ronnie mentioned, he'll be in Littlefield. I'll be at South Central. We'll have reports in the Reflector on Saturday and at reflector.com along with the game from Rose. We'll have something on that too, and then we'll have more coverage following up next week. Looking ahead to what is it? We're going to be week 8 next week.
Yeah,
right? I think that's insane.
Conference play.
First week of October. It's going to be crazy. So looking forward to that. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the games Friday, and we'll see you next week.